Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. You know, we often talk about buying and selling property or inheriting it,
Yeah.
but have you ever thought about property that's like permanently dedicated?
Oh, yeah.
It can't ever be sold or anything. It's a fascinating concept.
Totally.
Especially in India, there's this system under Islamic law where properties are dedicated like forever. Imagine land or buildings taken completely off the market.
Right.
They're just destined to serve a specific purpose forever. It's called Waqf.
Oh.
And today, we're diving into the world of the Waqf Board in India.
That's right.
To help us unpack all this is an expert on
Religious institutions?
religious institutions and property law in India. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to dive in.
So you shared an untitled document with me,
I did.
and it's really comprehensive.
Yeah, it's a pretty deep dive.
It covers everything from the basic definition of Waqf
Right.
all the way to like some big recent legal changes.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to kind of sift through all of this, pull out the key points so that you, the listener, can really grasp what the Waqf Board is, what it does, and all the hot topics surrounding it right now.
I think it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. So let's just start with the basics.
Okay.
What exactly is a Waqf for?
So at its heart, a Waqf warrant is a permanent dedication of property by a Muslim person or a group of Muslims.
Okay.
This property could be anything, land, buildings, even money. And it's dedicated for a specific purpose, like religious, educational, or charitable work.
Gotcha.
All guided by Sharia law, which is Islamic religious law that guides many aspects of life for Muslims, including charitable giving. And the key word here is permanent.
Okay.
Once something's declared as waqf, it can never be sold,
Wow.
gifted, or inherited. Its only purpose is to serve the community in the way that the original donor intended.
I see.
That permanence is really interesting because it makes it different from a one-time donation.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
These waqfs, they become lasting parts of the community.
Yeah.
Which would be great, but it also raises some interesting questions.
Like what?
Well, like what happens when a society's needs change over time?
Right.
But the property is still tied to that original purpose. It's definitely something to think about.
For sure. Okay, so we've got property locked into its purpose basically forever.
Right.
That's a huge commitment.
It is.
And this is where the Waqf Board comes in, right?
Exactly.
To manage all this. So what is the Waqf Board exactly?
So the Waqf Board in India is a government-recognized body
Okay.
created by law, what's called a statutory body.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically the official group in charge of all these Waqf properties. They keep records of all the Waqf properties in their area. Make sure they're being used correctly,
Okay.
according to the wishes of the person who dedicated them originally.
So they're like the guardians?
They are. They protect the properties from things like misuse, encroachment, or illegal occupation.
Yeah.
They also manage the different types of Waqf properties, which can be mosques, dargahs,
Which are?
Sufi shrines, graveyards, and even educational places like madrasas.
Oh, a lot of different stuff.
A wide range of community assets.
Sounds like a pretty big job,
It is.
especially considering how long Islam has been present in India.
You're right.
How is all of this structured?
Good question.
Are there like different levels?
So it's a two-tier system.
Okay.
At the top is the Central Waqf Council. The CWC, established back in 1964, they act as advisors to the Ministry of Minority Affairs, which is part of the Indian government. Then at the state level, each state with a significant Muslim population has its own state Waqf Board,
Okay.
and they're the ones who directly manage the properties within their state.
So we're talking about a whole network across the country.
Exactly.
The document mentions some examples of these state boards.
It did. You have the Uttar Pradesh Waqf Board, the Delhi Waqf Board, the Maharashtra Waqf Board, and the Tamil Nadu Waqf Board,
And
and the Bihar State Sunni Waqf Board.
okay, so those are just a few.
There are a lot. And the headquarters for the Central Waqf Council, the CWC, is in New Delhi.
So the state boards are like the boots on the ground,
Yay.
handling things locally,
Right.
while the Central Council provides the big picture guidance.
Exactly.
So what are some of the main duties that these Waqf boards have?
Your core responsibilities are all about protecting Waqf assets.
Okay.
That means physically protecting the property,
Right.
like from encroachment or damage, but also managing their finances, making sure any money earned from the property is used for its intended purpose. They also resolve disputes over Waqf properties, and they have to promote educational and welfare activities using funds and resources from the Waqf.
So this sounds like a system that has a lot of history.
It does.
The document talked a bit about the historical context. Can you tell us a little about that?
Sure. So the idea of Waqf in India really developed during the Mughal period. It was a way for rulers and wealthy individuals to support religious and charitable causes. But during the British rule, there wasn't a clear legal framework for it.
Oh, that's not good.
And that led to some problems. Some Waqf properties were misused or mismanaged because there was no system to protect them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And this historical mismanagement really shows why a proper legal structure is so important.
Right, so there was clearly a need for some laws to be put in place.
There was.
And that brings us to the legal side of things.
Yes.
The document mentioned the Waqf Act of 1954, so what's the story there?
Well, after India gained independence, they needed to establish a system for managing these properties. So in 1954, they passed the Waqf Act. This was the first law that set up the state Waqf boards across the country.
So it was like a foundation.
It was. It's a very important first step in creating a formal system for managing Waqf properties.
And then the document mentions another act.
Right.
The Waqf Act of 1995.
That's the one.
So what happened there?
That act essentially replaced the 1954 Act.
Okay.
It came into effect in November of 95, and it made the system even stronger.
How so?
Well, it really improved the management and protection of Waqf properties. It gave clearer roles and responsibilities to both the state Waqf boards and the Central Waqf Council.
So it was about making things more efficient.
More efficient and more accountable.
Okay.
And just to be clear, the document points out these acts were passed by the Indian Parliament.
Right.
The Indian government, specifically the Ministry of Minority Affairs, oversees everything. And the state governments actually create and run their own state Waqf boards under these laws.
So it's like a collaboration between the central government and the states.
Exactly.
Now this brings us to some really interesting recent developments.
Oh, yes.
The Waqf Amendment Bill of 2025.
Big changes.
It's been passed by Parliament.
Huge shift.
This sounds like a big deal.
It is.
What are the key changes it's making?
So there's several big ones.
Okay.
First, it requires non-Muslim members to be on the state Waqf boards.
Oh, wow.
That's different. Second, it gives the government the power to decide who owns properties that are in dispute, whether they're actually Waqf properties or not.
Right.
And third, if a government property was wrongly listed as Waqf, this new law will make sure it's no longer considered Waqf.
So that's interesting.
Does the document give any reasons for that change, like beyond just being more transparent?
Well, it does mention the government's perspective. They say the changes are all about increasing transparency and accountability in how Waqf properties are managed.
That makes sense.
They're saying it's to reduce corruption and the misuse of these endowments.
Sure.
So they're saying they want to make sure the properties are actually serving the people they're supposed to. Now, there's another side to this.
Yeah.
The document also highlights concerns from some Muslim organizations.
Right.
What are their main points?
They have some serious concerns about the bill. They're worried it could infringe on the constitutional rights of Muslims and weaken the independence of Waqf institutions. There's a fear that giving the government more power over these properties, including letting non-Muslims on the boards, could lead to too much government influence over historic mosques and dargahs and other religious sites.
Yeah.
They see it as a potential threat to their religious freedom.
So it's causing some tension.
Definitely.
The document even says that the Indian National Congress is planning to challenge the bill in the Supreme Court.
Wow.
So clearly people are pretty fired up about this.
Big time.
So where do things stand now with this bill? Is it law yet?
Well, as of right now, it's been passed by Parliament, but it's still waiting for the president's approval to officially become law.
Gotcha.
But several Muslim groups are getting ready to file legal petitions against it. And there are debates and protests happening all over the country.
So it's still very much in flux.
Absolutely. It's a developing situation.
Well, this has been a really fascinating look at the Waqf Board, from the very basics to these really significant potential changes.
It has.
Just to recap for our listeners, what are the key things to remember?
Okay, so first, a waqf is a permanent dedication of property.
Right.
For religious or charitable use under Islamic law, and the Waqf Board is the official body in India. responsible for managing all these properties.
Right.
We talked about how it's structured with the Central Advisory Council and these state-level boards, all working to protect and administer these assets.
And we talked about the laws.
The Waqf Acts of 1954 and 1995.
And finally, the new amendment bill.
The Waqf Amendment Bill of 2025.
Which is causing quite a stir.
Definitely.
Like, understanding the Waqf Board and how it works really helps us understand how religious and charitable donations are managed in India.
For sure.
And the debate about these new changes really highlights some crucial aspects of Indian society and its legal system.
It does.
It's a really interesting window into the relationship between religion and the government.
I agree.
Yeah.
And all the complexities that come with it.
So this brings us to a question for you, the listener. Given how historically significant these Waqf properties are, and how important they are to the community, what impact do you think these new changes will have? How will they shape the future of these properties and the role of religious institutions in Indian society?
That's the big question.
It's a complex issue with a lot of different perspectives.
For sure.
So we really encourage you to keep learning about it, read some news articles, look into some legal analysis, and form your own informed opinion.
And let us know what you think.
Definitely let us know your thoughts in the comments. That's all the time we have for today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
It was a pleasure.
And a huge thanks to Expert Name for sharing their expertise with us.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be back next week with another fascinating topic. Until then, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.